You're a classless pig that wears 30 chains around his neck like a child, like you're 15 when you're near 60. And how dare you talk like you want to help kids? Help kids do what? You immature clown. You're nothing but a piece of that with hookers your whole life at strippers. Look at you, you look like a one-eyed turtle. Bald-headed, fat, sloppy body. Abused your wife your whole life, disrespected her with hookers and girls, and every girl that you abuse, you shouldn't. And I don't know how that guy sat next to you, knowing that you were accused of all kinds of...
You're a rat, okay? Let's go. You got punched in your face by Papoose, you did nothing. You were accused of a gang in 2010. You did 4 months for tax evasion. All your stories are fake that you talk. Beating up karate guys, robbed everybody in school, like just clown stuff. You're just a clown. You look like the bad guy from Sonic the Hedgehog. You're just a cornball.
Fat Joe might have just opened the wrong door with this one, because one podcast story has now turned into a full mob-style back and forth. It started when Fat Joe told a story about running into an unnamed former street figure backstage at a show. Joe made it sound like the moment was tense from the jump. He said once he realized who the man was, he thought about people who got locked up for decades, and he confronted him face to face. Now, Fat Joe never said the name in that clip, but the internet did what the internet always does.
They know what I'm talking about. You're going to hear after this episode, they're going to tell you. Some people know.
Some people know.
Yeah, they...
People started connecting dots, and soon John Alite's name was all over the conversation. That is where things got ugly fast. John Alite, a former mob-connected figure who has openly spoken about his past and his cooperation with the government, did not let that story slide. He came back at Fat Joe with a wild response, and he did not just deny the story, he went personal. And this is where the whole thing gets bigger than just one insult. Alite started calling out Fat Joe's image, his street stories, and old rumors that have followed him for years. But the part that really made people stop scrolling was when Big Pun's name got dragged into it. Big Pun is not just a random name in hip-hop, he is a Bronx legend, a platinum-selling giant, and somebody fans still defend like family. So when John Alite claimed Fat Joe did Big Pun's family wrong, that turned this from regular podcast drama into something way more serious. Now let's keep it fair. These are claims, not proven facts. But in hip-hop, once people hear Fat Joe, Big Pun, money, loyalty, and mob drama in the same sentence, the comments are going to go crazy.
I gotta address a video of Fat Joe, soft nigga, that thinks if he talks about street guys or ex-street guys, it makes him credible. You're a soft nigga, first off. You were accused of a girl, 2010, sexual assault. You should be hiding under a rock somewhere, because what I hear, what I understand from your past friends, and I'm friends with some of the TS guys you used to stay with that you fucked over. Well, I know I'm getting good information. You're known to taking girls, abusing them, sexually assaulting them, selling heroin your whole life in the Bronx. You ain't no successful singer or money guy, so you can put that shit to rest. You're a classless pig that wears 30 chains around his neck like a child, like you're 15 when you're near 60. And how dare you talk like you want to help kids? Help kids do what? You immature clown. You're nothing but a piece of shit that fucked around with hookers your whole life at strippers. Look at you, you look like a one-eyed turtle. Bald-headed, fat, sloppy body. Abused your wife your whole life, disrespected her with hookers and girls, and every girl that you abuse, you shouldn't. And I don't know how that guy sat next to you, knowing that you were accused of all kinds of... You're a low-life, garbage, typical Hollywood big mouth. Little spoiled brat, acting like you're a hardcore nigga. You did a couple of months in some county bullshit for, I believe, for tax evasion or some crap. And you're trying to act like you're this hardcore guy because you're mentioning my name and other people's names. When you go to bed at night and you can't get it up, stop mentioning my name. Go mention somebody else's name when you're trying to stay with your wife and who knows why she's with you. You're a dead bum.
And the timing makes it even messier. Fat Joe has built a whole second lane as a storyteller. He can sit down, tell an old street story, and make it sound like a scene from a crime movie. But when the people inside those stories start talking back, the whole energy changes. So now, the question is simple. Did Fat Joe tell a story he should have left alone, or is John Alite using this moment to put pressure on Joe and pull old rumors back into the spotlight? Because this is only the beginning. After John Alite fired back, another former mob figure jumped in too, and he brought up Papoose, Joey Merlino, and even more claims about Fat Joe's past. Now, before Borello even jumped into this, John Alite already took the story somewhere Fat Joe probably did not expect. Because Alite did not just say, "That never happened." He tried to flip the whole situation on Joe. His message was basically, do not sit on a podcast acting like you checked me when people got questions about your own history too. That is why his response hit different. He went straight at Fat Joe's image. The chains, the tough talk, the old Bronx stories, the way Joe carries himself like he has seen it all and stood on everything. Alite was trying to tear that whole picture down in front of everybody. But the real pressure point was Big Pun. Once Alite brought Pun into it, the conversation left the mob lane and went straight into hip-hop legacy. Big Pun's name still means a lot, especially to Bronx rap fans and Latino hip-hop fans. Pun was not just famous, he was special. His flow, his pen, his voice, his presence, all of that made him one of one.
For your bullshit. Why don't you tell people how Pacheco, a cop, has been your security since you're a kid? You were best friends with his brother too. I see he hung around you forever. So the same guys you're calling snitches, you're hiring to protect you. I say, he's still your security along with the guy Rich. That's first. Second, tell everybody how in the barber shop they treated you like a bitch. Sent you at every bodega around. Kicked you in the ass, sent you here, sent you there. What'd you do for your friend that just died in a story? You got killed since you're a gangster. What'd you do? Did nothing. You're the guy that robbed Punch's wife's money. Stop your bullshit, man. Everybody knows you from that neighborhood, man. So we know you're not about it. Don't act like you're about it. You stepped out of your lane.
So when somebody claims Fat Joe did wrong by Pun's family, people are going to listen with both ears open. Now to be clear, Alite is making claims. That does not mean everything he said is fact, but the reason it spread so fast is because those rumors have been floating around for years, and anytime somebody says they know more, the internet runs with it, and that puts Fat Joe in a tricky spot. If he ignores it, people will say he is avoiding the Big Pun conversation. But if he responds, then he gives Alite exactly what he wants. More attention, more headlines, and a bigger stage. This is the danger of telling old street stories in public. Sometimes the story sounds good until the other person hears it and decides to tell their version. And now, Fat Joe is not just the narrator anymore. He is part of the drama. What makes it even crazier is that Alite invited the smoke directly. He basically said Fat Joe should bring him on the show and let them air it out face to face. And honestly, that would be wild. Because once Big Pun, old street claims, and mob history are all on the table, one sit down could go left quick. But before Fat Joe even had time to answer, another voice stepped in. Borello came through defending John Alite, and he brought a whole new set of claims with him. Now, this is where Fat Joe's problem gets bigger because John Alite was already going off, but then Borello stepped into the picture and added a whole new layer to the drama. Borello is another former mob-connected figure who has spoken publicly about his past, his prison time, and his cooperation with the government. So when he jumped in defending John Alite, people immediately knew this was not just one man mad at Fat Joe anymore. This was turning into mob turncoats versus Fat Joe in real time. Gene came in with one main message. He basically said Fat Joe needs to stop acting like he is the final judge of who is real and who is not.
You're a rat. Okay? Let's go. You got punched in your face by Papoose, you did nothing. You were accused of a gang in 2010. You did 4 months for tax evasion. All your stories are fake that you talk. Beating up karate guys. Robbed everybody in school. Like this clown stuff. You're just a clown. You look like the bad guy from Sonic the Hedgehog. You're just a cornball.
In Gene's eyes, Joe was sitting on a podcast telling wild stories, speaking on people from that mob world and making himself look tougher than he really is. But Gene did not stop at John Alite. He went straight for Fat Joe's image too. He brought up old rumors, street stories, and even claimed Papoose once punched Fat Joe, and Joe did not respond. Now again, that is only a claim, not a proven fact, but that kind of accusation is made to embarrass somebody. That is why this moment started spreading fast, because when someone attacks a rapper's image, especially a rapper known for telling street stories, the internet grabs it right away. People do not just hear the claim, they start asking, did that really happen? Why is this coming out now? Will Fat Joe answer? Then Gene brought Joey Merlino into it too, and that made the conversation even more tangled. Fat Joe had Joey Merlino on his platform, and Gene tried to use that against him, almost like he was saying, how are you judging John Alite while sitting next to another name from that same world? And that is the dangerous part about this whole situation. Fat Joe is used to hip-hop debates, radio interviews, and podcast smoke.
Show us around.
But this mob world comes with old names, old grudges, and people who do not like being used as characters in somebody else's story. So now Fat Joe is stuck in a weird spot. The same storytelling that made his podcast clips go viral is now bringing people out to challenge those stories.
You're a classless pig that wears 30 chains around his neck like a child, like you're 15 when you're near 60. And how dare you talk like you want to help kids? Help kids do what? You immature clown. You're nothing but a piece of that with hookers your whole life at strippers. Look at you, you look like a one-eyed turtle. Bald-headed, fat, sloppy body. Abused your wife your whole life, disrespected her with hookers and girls, and every girl that you abuse, you shouldn't. And I don't know how that guy sat next to you, knowing that you were accused of all kinds.
And once Big Pun, Papoose, John Alite, and Gene Borello all get mentioned in the same situation, this is not just gossip anymore. This is a full image war. Now the real question is, does Fat Joe stay quiet and let this pass? Or does he respond and risk making the whole thing even uglier? Now, the Joey Merlino part is where this story gets real tricky, because Fat Joe did not just tell a random mob story. He had a well-known name from that world sitting on his platform. Joey Merlino is not some internet character. He has been tied to major Philadelphia mob history for years, and his name carries weight whether people like him or not. So when Gene Borello started calling him out too, it showed that this was bigger than Fat Joe versus John Alite. Gene was basically saying Fat Joe cannot pick and choose who he respects from that world. In his mind, Joe was sitting next to one mob figure while disrespecting another one. And that is why Gene felt comfortable jumping into the conversation. But this is where fans started splitting sides. Some people said Gene was reaching because Joey Merlino has a different reputation than John Alite. Others said Fat Joe should have known that once he brought mob names into podcast conversations, other people from that same world were going to speak up. And that is the part that makes this whole situation feel dangerous for Fat Joe's image. Joe is not just a rapper anymore. He is a media personality now. He tells stories, interviews people, gives opinions, and moves like an elder voice in hip-hop. But when those old stories involve real street names, every sentence can come back with a response. Fat Joe's whole point seemed simple. He was saying he does not respect people who cooperate with the government and send others to prison. That is a stance a lot of hip-hop fans understand. But John Alite and Gene Borello are flipping it back on him by saying, do not question us if your own stories are not clean either. That is a nasty angle, because now they are not just defending themselves. They are trying to make Fat Joe look like a character who talks tougher than he moves. And once that type of narrative starts, it can get sticky.
Me out, Johnny Alite, who's, I'm very close with. I talk to him every day. Fat Joe, you go and say something about him. Like you're this big gangster, like you know everything about everybody. You talk about people because Joey Merlino's sitting on your show. Joey Merlino is a rat. You're a rat. Okay? Let's go. You got punched in your face by Papoose. You did nothing. You were accused of a gang rape in 2010. You did 4 months for tax evasion. All your stories are fake that you talk. Beating up karate guys. Robbed everybody in school. Like just clown stuff. You're just a clown. You look like the bad guy from Sonic the Hedgehog. You're just a cornball. Imagine that, Johnny Alite. You're making like you know what the situation is. Gotti, John Jr. the rat told on John Alite. They all told on Johnny Alite. You don't bring up these guys. It's hysterical. I laugh about this. Fat Joe. Stick to being a rapper and a pretender guy. You know, you rap about people that actually did gangster things. You never did nothing gangster in your life. Stop now. Joey Merlino is a rat. He's doing the same thing everyone else is doing, okay? Talk about his wife who abused him while he's in prison. The big gangster. The John Gotti of Philadelphia, as you say. Really? I'm real clear that wouldn't happen to John Gotti Sr. What happened to him? Okay? Let's stop now, right, guys? It's only going to get worse now. Fat Joe, I'm going to really torch you now. Bad. All right?
Because people will dig up old interviews. They will pull old rumors. They will bring Big Pun back into the comments. They will bring Papoose into the comments. They will question every story Fat Joe ever told. So now Fat Joe has to decide how much oxygen he wants to give this. Does he bring John Alite on the show and let the world watch them go face to face? Or does he stay quiet and let the mob podcast world argue with itself? Either way, this whole thing started with one unnamed story, and now it has turned into a public challenge over loyalty, truth, and who really gets to speak on street history. But out of everything being said, the Big Pun angle is the one Fat Joe cannot just brush off like regular internet noise, because this is not some random name being thrown around for shock value. This is Big Pun, a Bronx legend, a hip-hop giant, one of the most respected lyricists ever, and somebody fans still feel protective over to this day. So when John Alite claimed Fat Joe did Big Pun's family wrong, that hit different. It did not matter if people believed Alite or not. The second he connected Fat Joe's name to Pun's family, money, and loyalty, the whole conversation got louder. Now again, we have to keep this fair. These are claims. That does not mean everything being said is proven, but this is why the internet grabbed it so fast. For years, people have debated Fat Joe's relationship with Big Pun's legacy, and every time the topic comes back up, emotions run high. Some fans look at Fat Joe like the man who helped put Pun in position. They say Joe gave him a platform, stood beside him, and helped push Terror Squad to the world. But other people have always questioned what happened after Pun passed, especially when it comes to his family and whether they were properly looked after. That is why John Alite knew exactly where to press. He did not just attack Fat Joe's toughness. He attacked the one area where fans already had questions. That is a smart move, but it is also a messy one. Because now, Fat Joe is not only being judged by his podcast story, he is being judged by his whole history with Big Pun. And once fans start asking, did Joe really do right by Pun's family? That is a way deeper conversation than some backstage mob story. And this is where Fat Joe has to be careful. If he responds too aggressively, people may say he is trying to dodge the Pun topic. If he stays quiet, people may say the silence looks bad. Either way, John Alite dragged the conversation into a place where Joe has to move smart, because Big Pun's name carries weight. You cannot use it lightly. You cannot throw it into drama and expect people not to react. That name still means something in hip-hop. So now, this is bigger than John Alite feeling disrespected. This is about Fat Joe's legacy, Big Pun's legacy, and whether old rumors are about to get dragged back into the spotlight all over again. Now this is where the whole thing gets tricky, because John Alite and Borello are both calling Fat Joe out, but they also come with their own baggage. That is why fans are split. Some people are saying Fat Joe should not be speaking on people who cooperated if he knows they might answer back. But other people are saying, why should Fat Joe care what former informants have to say about street code? And that is the debate right there. Fat Joe's whole angle is loyalty. He is saying people who cooperated help send others away for decades, and in his mind, that makes them hard to respect. A lot of hip-hop fans understand that position because rap culture has always treated loyalty like a badge of honor. But Alite and Gene are flipping it back on him. They are basically saying, do not talk about loyalty when people still question your own past. That is why they keep bringing up Big Pun, Papoose, Joey Merlino, and old Bronx rumors. They are trying to make Joe look like he is judging others while avoiding his own smoke. And that is a dangerous lane, because once the internet starts checking somebody's whole story, nothing stays buried. Old interviews come back, old clips come back, old rumors get reposted like breaking news. One podcast story can turn into a full character trial overnight, but at the same time, Fat Joe has survived plenty of controversy before. This is not his first time being questioned, criticized, or dragged into street drama. The difference now is that he is not just dealing with rappers or bloggers, he is dealing with people from that mob podcast world, and they clearly do not mind saying names. So Fat Joe has to play this smart. If he brings John Alite on the show, it could be huge content, but it could also get ugly fast. If he ignores him, the story might fade, but people will keep saying he ducked the conversation. Either way, Joe is in a tight spot. And this all started because he told a story without saying a name. That is the wild part. One unnamed story turned into John Alite responding, Gene Borello jumping in, Big Pun's legacy being dragged back up, and Fat Joe's street image getting questioned from every side. Now the only thing left is the big question. Did Fat Joe tell the truth? Did John Alite expose a different side? Or is everybody using old street drama to get attention while the internet eats it up? At this point, Fat Joe is sitting in the middle of a story that is way bigger than one podcast clip. Because this is not just about John Alite feeling disrespected. This is about street image, loyalty, old mob names, Big Pun's legacy, and whether Fat Joe's stories are now starting to bring people out of the shadows. And that is the problem with being a great storyteller. When the story sounds good, everybody listens. But when the people inside that story feel like they got painted the wrong way, they might pop out with their own version, and that is exactly what happened here. John Alite heard Fat Joe's story and came back firing. Then Gene Borello stepped in and made it even worse. Now the internet has Big Pun, Papoose, Joey Merlino, and old Bronx rumors all packed into one messy conversation. But the Big Pun part is still the heaviest piece of this whole thing, because fans do not play when it comes to Pun. His name still carries love, respect, and pain. So when somebody claims Fat Joe did Pun's family wrong, people are going to demand answers even if the claims are not proven. And that is where Fat Joe has to decide what kind of move he wants to make. Does he ignore it and let the noise die down? Does he fire back and risk making the story bigger? Or does he bring John Alite face to face and let the whole internet watch the tension play out? Because let's keep it real, that sit down would do numbers. But numbers are not always worth the headache. Some conversations get too personal, too fast, and this one already has too many names attached to it. At the same time, John Alite and Gene Borello are not exactly clean messengers either. They have their own pasts, their own controversies, and their own reasons to want their side heard. So viewers have to be smart and not treat every claim like confirmed truth. What we know is simple. Fat Joe told a story. John Alite took it personal. Gene Borello jumped in. Big Pun's name got brought back into the mix. And now everybody is watching to see if Joe responds. So now I gotta ask you, who do you believe in this situation? Did Fat Joe tell the real version of what happened? Or did John Alite and Gene Borello expose that Joe went too far with the storytelling? Drop your thoughts below, because this one is messy and it does not feel like it is over yet. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to Dripzine, and stay locked in, because when hip-hop stories collide with old street politics, the drama gets ugly fast.